Hey guys, tonight we are drifting into the vast, silent expanse of the Pacific Ocean many centuries ago. Imagine, if you will, the inky blackness above, punctured by a million unfamiliar stars, and below, the endless, rhythmic sigh of the waves against a wooden hull. You're on a kaulua, a double-hulled voyaging canoe, a mere speck in an ocean so large it could swallow continents whole. And let's be honest, if you, with your modern sensibilities and reliance on GPS, were suddenly plonked onto one of these, you probably wouldn't survive the first week without a serious existential crisis, never mind finding an island. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Go ahead and drop your location and local time in the comments below. It's always fascinating to see where everyone is tuning in from, seeking a bit of historical calm. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You are here, suspended between the sea and the sky. The voyage has been long, weeks blending into a rhythm of sun and stars, of careful rationing and unwavering observation. Tonight it is your turn, perhaps, or another's, to seek rest. The Navigator, the Poo or the Palu, depending on which island tradition whispers on the wind, has finally succumbed to the deep need for sleep. Curled on a woven mat, perhaps under a small, arched shelter on the deck connecting the two hulls, or maybe even nestled amongst the supplies to avoid the worst of the night's spray, the body gives in. The mind, however, rarely goes entirely still, does it? Especially a mind so attuned to the subtle language of the ocean. What, then, fills the sleeping consciousness of such a person, a master of this watery universe? Their dreams are unlikely to be of quarterly reports or that awkward thing you said in a meeting 3 years ago. No, their inner world, even in sleep, is surely painted with the hues of their waking reality, yet perhaps twisted, amplified, or softened by the enigmatic hand of slumber. The Pacific Ocean itself, this immense, seemingly featureless canvas, must be a dominant character. It's a known fact that Polynesian voyagers navigated an area of the Pacific often called the Polynesian Triangle, stretching from Hawaii in the north to Aotearoa in New Zealand in the southwest and Rapa Nui Easter Island in the southeast, an area roughly twice the size of the continental United States. That's a lot of blue. And when that much blue is your entire world for months on end, it's bound to seep into your dreams. Imagine the dreamscape, endless horizons, but perhaps in the dream, the horizon is not empty. Maybe it shimmers with islands never seen in waking life, islands made of cloud, or islands that float just out of reach. The quality of the water itself could transform. One night, it's a placid, shimmering mirror reflecting an impossible number of moons. And the next, it's a churning, restless entity, its depths hinting at mysteries or forgotten gods. Historians still argue whether the primary impetus for these incredible voyages was resource depletion on home islands, the spirit of adventure and exploration, or perhaps even dynastic rivalries pushing groups outward. Whatever the complex web of reasons, the ocean was the path, the challenge, and the sustainer. Consider the Wayfinders' deep, almost cellular connection to this environment. Their dreams might not be abstract anxieties, but direct reflections of their skills. Do they dream of wave patterns, the subtle lift and fall of the swell that tells them of distant, unseen land? Do they see the star paths not as individual points but as glowing, interconnected roadways across the velvet dome of the night sky, perhaps even more vivid and clear in their dreams than in reality? It's a rather charming, if somewhat unprovable, idea that some navigators believed they could feel islands before they could see them, a kind of intuitive resonance. Perhaps this feeling translated into dream images of those islands tantalizingly close. The sheer solitude, even with a crew, must have been profound. Days and nights where the only other significant presence was the canoe itself and the vast, uncaring ocean. This solitude could easily breed a unique dream life. Were their dreams populated by the faces of those left behind, appearing with messages of comfort or concern? Or did the ocean itself take on a personality, a voice, a will in their sleeping minds? It's not so far-fetched. When your existence depends on an entity so powerful and unpredictable, it's natural to personify it, to seek a relationship with it. even if only in the subconscious theater of dreams. You probably wouldn't want to dream about your Wi-Fi going out when your actual biggest concern is a rogue wave or a sudden squall. Priorities, you see. The sensory input, even muted by sleep, continues. The creak of the coconut fiber lashings holding the hulls together, the slap of water, the distant cry of a seabird. These sounds, forming the constant soundtrack of their voyage, could become the ambient noise of their dream worlds, or perhaps even the dialogue. A particular creak might transform into a whispered warning from an ancestor, or the sigh of the wind through the pandanus sail might become the breath of a mythical beast. The line between the mundane and the magical was perhaps more porous for them, especially when adrift on an endless sea, far from the certainties of land. It's a quirky little tidbit that some island traditions held specific beliefs about animals encountered at sea. A certain bird or fish appearing at a critical moment might be an omen, or even an ancestral spirit in disguise. Imagine dreaming of a shark that speaks with your grandfather's voice, offering navigational advice. Less stressful than dreaming you've forgotten your keys, I suppose. So, as our Wayfinder sleeps, their mind is not a blank slate. It's a repository of immense knowledge, of deep ancestral memory, of acute sensory awareness, and of the fundamental human experiences of hope, fear, and longing. Their dreams are the echoes of the ocean's vastness, the whispers of the stars, and the silent, beating heart of a culture that dared to dance with the sea. The inner world, a private cinema screen, plays out narratives woven from the threads of this extraordinary life. The wall itself, their canoe, their island, their world, becomes more than just a vessel. It is an extension of their very being, and its constant, subtle symphony of motion and sound would undoubtedly lull them into and then permeate their dreams. Think about it, you're cradled in this structure, perhaps for months. The gentle, or sometimes not so gentle, rocking is as constant as your own heartbeat. This rhythmic cradle, the ceaseless undulation of the ocean transmitted through the wooden hulls, would be the first and last sensation of their sleeping hours. It's not like sleeping in a stationary bed on solid ground, where stillness is the norm. Here, movement is the norm, and stillness would be alarming. Imagine the dream logic this creates. Perhaps in their dreams, landscapes undulate like the sea. Mountains might rise and fall with a gentle swell, or trees might sway not to a breeze, but to the deep rhythm of an oceanic breath. The sensation of being perpetually rocked could translate into dreams of flying, or perhaps of being carried by some enormous, gentle creature. Or, conversely, if the sea turned rough, the jerky, unpredictable motions could manifest as dreams of falling, or of being pursued through an unstable, shifting environment. You know how sometimes you dream you're trying to run, but your legs are like lead. Imagine that. But the ground beneath you is also doing the Macarena, less than ideal for a swift getaway, even in a dream. Then there are the sounds, a constant auditory tapestry. The creak of the timbers, the groan of the ropes made from coconut husk fibers sennit as they flex and strain with the canoe's movement. Each sound is familiar, intimately known. A particular creak might signify a change in wind pressure on the sail, or a shift in the load. These are sounds a wayfinder listens to even in their waking subconscious. In dreams, these sounds could become amplified, distorted, or imbued with meaning. A rhythmic creaking might become the sound of giant footsteps approaching, or the sighing of the wind through the rigging might morph into whispers, carrying messages or warnings. Historians still argue whether the specific design of the double-hulled canoe, with its inherent stability and capacity, was a singular brilliant invention or an iterative development across various island groups. Regardless, its construction was a masterpiece of local materials and deep understanding of oceanic forces. The slap of waves against the hulls, a constant percussive beat, sometimes gentle, like a soft hand tapping, other times a sharp, startling crack as a rogue wave makes its presence known. This percussive rhythm could easily become the drumbeat of a dream ritual, or the sound of unseen beings communicating in a language of water and wood. A quirky tidbit: some accounts suggest that experienced sailors could discern incredible amounts of information from the sounds of the water against the hull speed. The nature of currents, even the proximity of reefs or land by the way the sound echoed or dampened. If their waking ears were so attuned, imagine the heightened, perhaps surreal interpretations their dreaming minds might concoct. Maybe they dreamed of the canoe speaking to them, its groans and sighs forming actual words of advice. Ease up on the port sheet. Mate, you're making me spill my imaginary tea. The feel of the materials too, the smooth, worn wood of the decking, the rough texture of woven pandanus mats or sails, the coolness of the night air, the dampness of sea spray. These tactile sensations persist, even in sleep, grounding them to their physical reality. In dreams, these textures might become exaggerated. A simple mat could become a vast, soft landscape, or the damp spray could be a torrential, dream rain falling on a forgotten land. The physical comfort or discomfort of their sleeping arrangement would also play a part. If they were cold, their dreams might take them to icy, desolate places. If they were warm and sheltered, perhaps their dreamscapes were more benign, more welcoming. Consider the communal aspect of sleeping on a canoe. While some might have slightly more private nooks, many would be sleeping in relatively close proximity. The sounds of others sleeping, breathing, murmuring, shifting would also weave into the auditory backdrop. Perhaps the collective breath of the crew in dreams became the sigh of a single, giant entity, or a whispered conversation might be overheard, only to morph into something fantastical. It's a well-known fact that many Polynesian societies placed great emphasis on community and cooperation, essential for survival on long voyages. This sense of interconnectedness wouldn't just vanish when they closed their eyes. Their dreams might reflect this, featuring shared tasks, communal feasts on dream islands, or even anxieties about the well-being of their fellow voyagers. The canoe was not just transport, it was life support. It carried their food, their water, their tools, their hopes. The integrity of this vessel was paramount. Any dream that featured the canoe being damaged or failing would likely be a potent anxiety dream, tapping into the deepest fears of any seafarer. Conversely, dreams where the canoe performed exceptionally, perhaps even flying or sailing itself, could be expressions of confidence or a deep-seated trust in their craft and their own skills. You wouldn't dream of your car breaking down if your car was also your house, your grocery store, and your only way to get to another continent. The stakes are just a little higher. The rhythmic security of the canoe, its predictable responses to the ocean's whims, provided a baseline of stability that, even when translated into the bizarre logic of dreams, offered a continuous, familiar sensory input shaping the very fabric of their nightly narratives. As darkness blankets the Pacific, the most reliable map for these intrepid navigators wasn't parchment and ink, but the vast, glittering starscape above. The stars were not just pretty lights, they were signposts, ancestral guides, the very cogs of their celestial clockwork. So it's almost inevitable that these same stars, meticulously observed and memorized during waking hours, would dance and wheel their way through the Wayfinders' dreams, taking on new, perhaps symbolic meanings. Imagine the sheer mental effort of committing dozens, if not hundreds, of star paths to memory, their rising and setting points, their relationships to each other throughout the night and the seasons. That kind of intense cognitive mapping is bound to leave an imprint on the subconscious. In their dreams, did the stars remain fixed and orderly, reassurance of cosmic constancy? Or did they sometimes break free from their known paths, leading the dreamer on impossible celestial voyages? Perhaps familiar constellations took on new shapes, morphing into animals, ancestors, or mythical beings from their rich oral traditions. The Milky Way, often seen as a river or a path in many cultures, might in their dreams become a literal river of light, flowing towards a mythical homeland or a newly discovered paradise. You might dream of your street signs rearranging themselves, but for a Polynesian wayfinder, dreaming of Antares suddenly deciding to hang out next to Sirius would be the celestial equivalent of your front door vanishing. A bit disorienting, to say the least. Consider the specific techniques they used, like the star compass, a mental construct where the navigator memorizes the rising and setting points of key stars around the horizon. This wasn't a physical instrument, but an internalized system, Historians still argue about the exact number of directional points in these non-instrumental star compasses, varying between different island groups, but often totaling around 32, dividing the horizon into predictable sectors. In a dream, this mental compass could become a literal, tangible object, perhaps a spinning wheel of light, guiding their dream self through fantastical landscapes or across starry oceans. The stars they relied on for specific bearings, perhaps to find a particular island chain or to maintain a consistent latitude, might appear in dreams as particularly bright or beckoning, imbued with a sense of agency or personality. There's a quirky tidbit from some traditions that suggests specific stars were associated with certain gods, spirits, or legendary heroes. If such a star was crucial for their current heading, it's easy to imagine it appearing in a dream not just as a point of light, but as the entity it represented, perhaps offering guidance, a warning, or even a challenge. Imagine dreaming that a po, the North Star in Hawaiian tradition, though its utility changes significantly as one travels south across the equator, literally winked at you, or that the Pleiades, known as Matariki in the Maori culture and signaling the new year, whispered secrets of the coming seasons. It's a far cry from dreaming your alarm clock is shouting at you in Latin. The clarity of the night sky over the open ocean, far from any light pollution, is something we can barely conceive of today. The sheer density of stars, the brilliance of the Milky Way, the unexpected flash of a meteor, these would have been common sights, fuel for the imagination. In dreams, this clarity could be heightened further. The stars so close it felt like you could reach out and touch them. Or perhaps the dream would play with obstruction, clouds, fog, or even mythical creatures obscuring the vital star paths, reflecting an underlying anxiety about losing their way. It's a known fact that Polynesian navigators were adept at reading cloud formations and their relationship to land. But in a dream, clouds could become sentient obstacles or protective veils. The moon, too, with its phases and its own path across the sky, would be a significant dream symbol. Its gentle light, often the only illumination apart from the stars, could create dreamscapes of ethereal beauty or deep shadow. The changing phases of the moon, crucial for understanding tides and sometimes for specific rituals, might in dreams correlate with emotional states or narrative shifts. A full moon dream might be one of clarity and revelation, while a new moon dream could be one of mystery, introspection, or even fear of the unseen. The cyclical nature of the stars, their predictable return, offered a sense of order in a world that could often feel chaotic. This predictability, this cosmic rhythm, likely provided a deep psychological anchor. In dreams, this rhythm might be maintained, offering comfort and reassurance. Or, in moments of stress or uncertainty, the dream might shatter this order. The stars falling from the sky or spinning wildly, a potent metaphor for a loss of control or a fear of the unknown. When your entire directional sense relies on things behaving as they should, celestial anarchy in your dreams would be a pretty strong signal from your subconscious that perhaps you're a tad stressed about finding that next tiny dot of land in the big blue. Their dreams, therefore, were not just random firings of neurons, but a continued dialogue with the cosmos, a nocturnal processing of the most critical data for their survival and success. The ocean, in its immense and varied moods, was the constant companion, the very stage upon which the drama of their voyage unfolded. It stands to reason, then, that its deep murmurs, its shifting surfaces, and its hidden depths would profoundly influence the narratives playing out in the Wayfinder's sleeping mind. From the gentle lapping of calm seas against the hulls to the roaring fury of a tropical storm, the ocean's voice was an omnipresent soundtrack, easily bleeding into the dreamscape, shaping its emotional tone and its very topography. Imagine trying to sleep while your entire world is either gently rocking you or trying to impersonate a washing machine on high spin that's bound to leave a mark on your REM cycle. In dreams, the state of the dream, ocean could be a direct reflection of the Wayfinder's inner emotional state. A calm, sun-dappled sea might mirror feelings of peace, confidence, or contentment. The dreamer might glide effortlessly over its surface, perhaps even walk upon it, a master of their domain. But if the real ocean was turbulent, Or if anxieties about the voyage were simmering, the dream ocean could become a monstrous, chaotic entity. Waves as tall as mountains might crash down, threatening to engulf the dream canoe, or strange, menacing creatures might rise from its inky depths. You know that dream where you're trying to swim but you're just flailing. Now add 100-foot waves and a distinct lack of land. Slightly more stressful. The sounds of the ocean, so intimately known, would also transform. The gentle sigh of swells passing beneath the canoe, a sound that might be incredibly soothing in waking life, could in a dream become the breath of a slumbering giant, or the sorrowful lament of ocean spirits. The hiss of spray, the distant boom of a large wave breaking, the eerie silence that can sometimes fall between sets of swells, all these auditory cues could be woven into dream narratives, becoming omens, messages, or simply the ambient sound of a fantastical underwater kingdom they might be visiting. It's a quirky tidbit that some Polynesian cultures have stories of people who could speak with sharks or other sea creatures. Perhaps in dreams, these conversations actually took place, the ocean's inhabitants offering cryptic advice or dire warnings. Historians still argue about the precise extent to which early Polynesians understood deep ocean currents versus primarily surface-level phenomena. However, their intimate knowledge of wave patterns, swells generated by distant storms, and the refraction of waves around islands was undeniably sophisticated. In a dream, these complex hydrodynamic phenomena could take on visual, even anthropomorphic forms. A strong current might be a powerful river god, pulling the dream canoe off course, or a specific swell pattern might manifest as a winding path leading to a hidden cove. The way they learn to read the reflection of islands in the clouds, or the loom of land beyond the horizon, could translate into dreams of islands appearing and disappearing like mirages, tantalizing and elusive. The sheer depth of the Pacific, miles deep in many places, was a vast unknown. What lurked in those crushing, lightless abysses? While their practical focus was on the surface and the sky, the human imagination rarely leaves such a void entirely unpopulated. Dreams could be the space where the mind explored these depths. Perhaps they dreamt of descending into underwater realms, encountering phosphorescent creatures, vast silent cities of coral, or the resting places of ancient, sunken canoes. These wouldn't necessarily be horror-filled dreams, but explorations of a mysterious, parallel world that was always just beneath them. It's a known fact that Polynesian cosmology often included multiple underworlds or spiritual realms, and the deep ocean could easily serve as a symbolic gateway to such places in their dream narratives. Consider the marine life they encountered: dolphins playing in the bow wave, whales breaching in the distance, schools of fish that provided sustenance. These creatures, so vital and often awe-inspiring, would surely swim through their dreams. A dolphin might become a guide, a whale a wise elder, or a shark a formidable guardian or adversary. The behavior of these animals in the dream could be laden with symbolic meaning, reflecting the dreamer's hopes, fears, or current challenges. If you've spent weeks seeing nothing but water and the occasional albatross, dreaming of a friendly whale offering you a ride would probably be a welcome change of pace. Even if it's just your subconscious being whimsical. The ocean was both a provider and a potential destroyer, a source of life and a vast, watery grave. This duality would undoubtedly be reflected in their dreams. One night, the dream ocean might be bountiful, teeming with easily caught fish, its surface calm and inviting. The next, it could be a barren, lifeless expanse or a raging tempest intent on their destruction. These dream narratives would be a way of processing the inherent risks and rewards of their extraordinary lifestyle, a constant negotiation with the immense power that surrounded them. The ocean's deep murmurs, therefore, were not just background noise, but the very pulse of their subconscious, dictating the rhythm and mood of their nightly voyages into the unknown. No matter how vast the ocean or how compelling the call of discovery, the memory of home, the island left behind, would be a powerful anchor in the Wayfinder's heart and, undoubtedly, a recurring landscape in their dreams. The sights, sounds, smells, and textures of their birthplace or their long-time residence are not easily forgotten, especially when contrasted with the stark, demanding environment of a long sea voyage. These memories, burnished by time and distance, would likely surface in sleep, offering comfort, longing, or perhaps even a touch of melancholy. You can take the Wayfinder out of the island, but you can't take the island out of the Wayfinder's dreams, or something like that. Imagine the vividness with which their dream self might walk familiar paths. The feel of warm volcanic soil underfoot, the scent of frangipani or gardenia blossoms carried on a gentle breeze, the specific green of the taro patches, the shade of a particular breadfruit tree where stories were told. These sensory details, perhaps dulled by the salt and sun of the voyage, could return with startling clarity in dreams, a sweet, poignant reminder of what they were striving to find again, or what they were carrying within them to a new land. The taste of fresh coconut water, the sound of children laughing as they played in the lagoon, the sight of smoke rising from cooking fires at dusk, these simple, everyday moments could become powerful dream symbols of peace, community, and belonging. The dream island might not always be a perfect replica of the one they'd left. Dreams have a way of rearranging reality, don't they? Perhaps the dream island combined features from several places they knew, or maybe it was an idealized version, free from the conflicts or resource pressures that might have spurred their departure. It could be a landscape of pure wish, fulfillment, where food was always abundant, the weather always perfect, and loved ones always present and happy. It's a quirky tidbit that in some Polynesian traditions, specific landmarks like mountains or prominent rocks were considered sacred or imbued with ancestral power. These features might appear in dreams as particularly significant, perhaps offering guidance or reassurance, or even serving as portals to other spiritual realms within the dream. The faces of family members, parents, spouses, children, siblings would surely be frequent visitors in their nocturnal narratives. These dream encounters could be deeply comforting, a chance to feel connected across the vast expanse of water. They might receive messages of love and support, or simply share a moment of quiet companionship. Conversely, if there were unresolved issues or anxieties about those left behind, these too could surface. Dreams of loved ones in peril, or dreams where the dreamer is unable to reach them, could reflect the deep emotional currents of separation and concern. Historians still argue about the social structures and motivations that allowed for such prolonged absences, and the emotional toll it must have taken on individuals and families is a subject of much empathetic speculation. The familiar comforts of island life, things taken for granted when available, would become precious in memory and potentially prominent in dreams. A soft sleeping mat in a sturdy house, sheltered from wind and rain, the taste of a favorite dish cooked in an emu's earth oven, the feeling of security that comes from being surrounded by a supportive community. These elements could manifest in dreams as intense cravings or as blissful experiences of fulfillment. When your current bed is a plank of wood and your dinner is dried fish for the 10th day running, dreaming of a feast and a comfortable nap under a thatched roof probably feels like winning the lottery. Even the challenges of island life, the hard work of cultivation, the occasional squabbles, the need to defend resources might feature in their dreams, but perhaps filtered through a lens of nostalgia or seen as part of a cherished, complete way of life. The dream could be a way of processing not just what was lost, but what defined them, what made their home home. It's a known fact that Polynesian societies had complex systems of land tenure and resource management. Dreams might revisit these systems, perhaps playing out scenarios of planting and harvesting, or community councils discussing important matters, reaffirming their cultural identity even in sleep. The dream of home wasn't just a passive replay of memories, it could also be a source of strength and motivation, remembering what they were striving for, to find new lands that could replicate the best of what they'd known, or to return one day with news of discoveries could fuel their determination during waking hours. These dreams of remembered landscapes, the laughter of kin, and the simple, profound comforts of a life rooted in a specific place served as a vital counterpoint to the endless blue, a reminder that even in the midst of the unknown, the heart holds on to its origins. The echo of the home island was a gentle, persistent song in the symphony of their sea-bound dreams. In the spiritual cosmology of many Polynesian cultures, the line between the physical world and the realm of spirits, ancestors, and gods was often beautifully blurred. Ancestors weren't just memories, they were active presences, capable of influencing the living, offering guidance, protection, or sometimes warnings. It's highly probable, then, that these ancestral spirits, known by various names such as Aumakua in Hawaiian tradition, family or personal deities, often manifesting as animals like sharks, owls, or lizards, would feature prominently in the dreams of a wayfinder, especially when adrift on the vast, mysterious ocean, far from the everyday reassurances of their home community. Sleep, a state where the conscious mind loosens its grip, could be seen as a natural time for such communion. Imagine the wayfinder curled in their canoe, drifting off. As sleep deepens, the dream space opens, and perhaps a familiar figure appears, a revered grandparent, a skilled navigator from generations past, or even a more primal ancestral totem animal. These figures wouldn't necessarily be frightening. More likely, they would be imbued with a sense of wisdom and authority. They might speak, offering direct advice. Steer by the Southern Cross for 2 more nights, then look for the frigate bird. Or perhaps their messages would be more symbolic, a gesture, an object shown, a feeling imparted, requiring interpretation upon waking. You might dream of your old boss telling you to synergize your deliverables, which is terrifying in its own way, but an ancestor offering genuine, life-saving navigational tips. That's a dream you'd pay attention to. The appearance of an Aumakua or a similar guardian spirit in a dream could be incredibly reassuring. On a journey fraught with peril, storms, starvation, getting hopelessly lost, the feeling that powerful, benevolent ancestral forces were watching over them, guiding their hand on the steering paddle, would be a profound psychological boon. These dreams could bolster courage, alleviate fear, and reinforce the conviction that their voyage was sanctioned, perhaps even willed, by the spiritual lineage they belonged to. It's a known fact that genealogies were meticulously kept and recited in many Polynesian societies, emphasizing a deep connection to those who came before. These recited names were not just history, they were an invocation of presence and power. Conversely, an ancestor might appear in a dream with a warning. Perhaps they'd show a vision of a hidden reef, a coming storm, or even dissent brewing among the crew. Such dreams would likely be taken very seriously, prompting careful observation and perhaps precautionary measures. Historians still argue about the precise mechanisms by which such warnings might have correlated with actual environmental cues subconsciously perceived by the experienced navigator, a subtle change in wave patterns or bird behavior that the conscious mind hadn't yet registered, but the dreaming mind, with its access to deeper layers of observation, picked up on. A dream of a wrathful ancestor could also signify that a kapu taboo had been broken, or that the voyager was straying from their destined path or moral obligations. It's a quirky tidbit that in some traditions, specific rituals or offerings might be made to encourage helpful dreams or to appease spirits if a troubling dream occurred. While we don't have detailed dream diaries from ancient Polynesian wayfinders, a pity, really, the oral traditions and later ethnographic accounts suggest a rich dream culture where dreams were considered meaningful and often communal. A significant dream, especially one from a respected navigator or elder, might be shared and discussed, its portents carefully considered by the group. This wasn't just idle chatter. It could influence decisions critical to the voyage. The form these ancestral figures took in dreams could vary widely. Sometimes human, sometimes animal, sometimes perhaps even as a disembodied voice or a palpable presence. If an Aumakua was, for example, a shark, the dreamer might find themselves swimming alongside a powerful, wise shark that guides them through complex currents or towards shoals of fish. If it was an owl, they might dream of flying high above the canoe, seeing the ocean's patterns with a bird's eye clarity. The symbolism would be deeply personal and culturally resonant. Imagine dreaming your deceased, highly respected navigator uncle turns up as a very eloquent dolphin to tell you you're going the wrong way. You'd probably listen, right? Especially if he was good with directions when he was, not a dolphin. These dream encounters with ancestors and spiritual guides would serve to reinforce the Wayfinder's sense of belonging to something larger than themselves, a continuous chain of existence stretching back into the mythical past and forward into the future they were trying to build. It transformed the lonely ocean into a space populated by unseen allies, making the journey not just a physical endeavor, but a spiritual pilgrimage, undertaken with the active participation of the ancestral world. Their slumber wasn't empty, it was a meeting place, a council chamber with the guardians of their lineage. While dreams of ancestral guidance and shimmering new islands undoubtedly offered solace and motivation, the subconscious mind of a wayfinder, like any human mind, would also grapple with anxieties and fears. The very nature of their undertaking, sailing into the vast unknown, with limited resources, facing unpredictable weather, and the ever-present possibility of not finding land, was inherently stressful. It's only natural that these anxieties would sometimes manifest as navigational nightmares, dreams filled with the chilling dread of being utterly and irrevocably lost, or of facing catastrophic failures at sea. You might have nightmares about missing an exam, they had nightmares about missing a continent. Slightly different stakes. Imagine the dream scenario: the stars, their trusted guides, are suddenly blotted out by an impenetrable, unnatural fog. Or perhaps the stars begin to spin erratically, their familiar patterns dissolving into a chaotic jumble, rendering all celestial navigation impossible. The dream navigator feels a rising panic, the steering paddle useless in their hand, the canoe drifting aimlessly into an endless, featureless void. This kind of dream would tap into the most fundamental fear of a wayfinder, the loss of their ability to read the environment, the core of their skill and identity. It's like a concert pianist dreaming their fingers have turned into sausages, a direct assault on their expertise. Storms, a very real and frequent danger, would also be a potent source of dream terror. They might dream of monstrous waves, far larger than anything encountered in waking life, threatening to capsize the wah or smash it to pieces. The wind might howl with a malevolent, sentient voice, and the rain could be icy, stinging, or even made of something strange and unsettling, like blood or sand. In these dreams, the struggle to maintain control of the vessel, to protect their crew and supplies, would be intense and often futile, leading to a dream sensation of overwhelming powerlessness. It's a known fact that Polynesian voyaging canoes, while remarkably seaworthy, were still vulnerable to the full fury of major cyclones or hurricanes. This knowledge would lurk in the back of their minds, ready to surface in nightmares. Equipment failure is another prime candidate for anxiety dreams. What if the carefully crafted lashings holding the hulls together suddenly snap? What if the mast broke in a squall, or the precious pandanus sail ripped beyond repair? What if their bailers couldn't keep up with a sudden leak? In a dream, these events could occur with terrifying speed and finality. The dreamer might be desperately trying to fix the problem, their hands fumbling, tools breaking, while the canoe slowly succumbs to the relentless ocean. Historians still argue about the exact lifespan and maintenance schedules of these voyaging canoes, but constant vigilance and repair were undoubtedly part of life on board. Any lapse, any oversight could have dire consequences, a fact their subconscious wouldn't let them easily forget. A particularly insidious nightmare might involve the loss or contamination of their vital supplies, dreaming that their carefully hoarded gourds of fresh water have all cracked and leaked away, or that their preserved breadfruit, taro, or dried fish has become spoiled and inedible, would be a deeply unsettling experience. The specter of starvation and dehydration was a constant, if unspoken, companion on long voyages. Such dreams would amplify these underlying fears, leaving the wayfinder with a lingering sense of dread upon waking, even if the reality of their supplies was still secure. It's a quirky tidbit that some Pacific Island cultures developed incredibly sophisticated food preservation techniques to last for months at sea, but the anxiety about those stores running out would always be there. Then there's the dream of sighting land, only for it to repeatedly recede or vanish as they approach a cruel mirage, a phantom island that offers hope and then snatches it away. This kind of dream would play on the psychological strain of searching, of scanning the horizon day after day for that first, faint smudge of land. It's the ultimate bait and switch, courtesy of their exhausted, worried mind. You've been squinting at the horizon for weeks, and then your brain decides it would be hilarious to show you a perfect, lush island that dissolves into mist the moment you try to steer towards it. Thanks, brain. These navigational nightmares, while distressing, likely served a purpose. They could be a way for the subconscious to process potential threats, to mentally rehearse responses, or perhaps even to highlight areas where vigilance might be particularly needed. They were the dark side of the dream, coin, a reflection of the immense courage and resilience required to face such a daunting environment, acknowledging the very real dangers that were an integral part of their extraordinary achievements. The fear of being lost wasn't just a practical concern, it was an existential one, and their dreams were one place where this deep-seated dread could be confronted. The oral traditions of Polynesian peoples are rich with epic sagas, tales of heroic voyages, mischievous gods, and encounters with fantastical creatures. These stories, passed down through generations around firesides and during long communal gatherings, formed the bedrock of their cultural understanding of the world, their history, and their place within the cosmos. It's almost certain that these myths and legends, so deeply ingrained in their consciousness, would not simply stay confined to waking storytelling, but would sail forth into their dreams, populating their nocturnal seascapes with figures of immense power and wonder. Imagine your bedtime stories coming to life, but instead of gold dalloks, it's Muyu fishing up islands. The demigod Minwui, a central figure in many Polynesian mythologies, known for his incredible feats like snaring the sun to slow it down, fishing up islands from the ocean floor with his magical fishhook Manaiakalani, and bringing fire to humanity, would be a prime candidate for a dream cameo. A wayfinder, perhaps feeling small and insignificant against the vastness of the ocean, might dream of Mamoyu himself, striding across the waves, larger than life, perhaps offering a word of encouragement, or even playfully challenging them. Or they might dream of wielding a fishhook like Menyu's, pulling not just fish but new, undiscovered lands from the dream, ocean's depths. It's a known fact that the Mamoyu legends vary from island group to island group, but his persona as a culture hero, a trickster, and a bringer of benefits to humankind is widespread, making him an easily recognizable and potent dream symbol. Other gods and goddesses from their specific pantheon could also make appearances. Kanaloa in Hawaiian tradition, often associated with the ocean, squid, or octopus, and sometimes seen as a complementary power to Keani, the god of fresh water and sunlight. Tangaroa in Mimori and other traditions, a powerful god of the sea, or Haina, a goddess often associated with the moon, tapa making, and sometimes a voyager herself. These divine beings might appear in dreams in majestic, awe-inspiring forms, or perhaps in more subtle guises. Their presence could signify a blessing, a test, or a reminder of the sacred forces that govern the world. Historians still argue about the precise hierarchical relationships and attributes of deities across the Polynesian spectrum, as these varied considerably. But the underlying sense of a world animated by spiritual powers was pervasive. Mythical creatures, too, could swim from the depths of legend into the dream ocean. Giant magical sharks, enormous sea turtles that carry islands on their backs, malevolent tanua in Magori tradition, powerful guardian or predatory beings inhabiting rivers, lakes, or the sea, or seductive, dangerous ocean sirens. These encounters in dreams could be thrilling, terrifying, or strangely beautiful. A dream of being guided by a benevolent mythical creature could be a sign of good fortune, while an encounter with a more fearsome entity might reflect anxieties or perceived dangers. You might dream of a particularly aggressive squirrel in your backyard. They might dream of a sea serpent with an attitude problem and a taste for outrigger canoes. Perspective A. The Great Migratory Legends. The stories of the first ancestors who sailed from a mythical homeland like Hawaii would also provide rich material for dream narratives. A wayfinder might dream they are sailing alongside these legendary heroes, participating in those epic, foundational voyages. This would connect their own journey directly to the sacred past, imbuing it with greater meaning and purpose. They might see visions of Hawaii itself, A paradise lost or a spiritual wellspring, its shores shimmering on the dream horizon. It's a quirky tidbit that the concept of Hawaii is complex. It could refer to a specific ancestral island, a spiritual realm, or even the general direction of west, from which many migrations originated. This ambiguity would make it an even more potent and flexible dream symbol. Even the canoe itself, the wa, could take on mythical qualities in dreams. Perhaps it transforms into a giant bird, soaring above the waves, or becomes a sentient being, speaking to the dreamer, imbued with the spirit of the wood from which it was made, or the ancestors who had sailed in similar vessels. The tools of navigation, the star compass, the steering paddle, might also become magical artifacts in the dream, glowing with inner light or possessing special powers. These dreams, filled with gods, heroes, and monsters from their own cultural narratives, would serve to reinforce their worldview, making sense of the often inexplicable forces of nature and the challenges of their voyage through a familiar mythic lens. It was a way for the individual subconscious to tap into the collective wisdom and imagination of their people, finding patterns of meaning and expressions of hope and fear that resonated deeply within their cultural DNA. Their sleep wasn't just rest, it was a vibrant theater where the great stories of their people were reenacted and reinterpreted nightly. The realities of a long ocean voyage were stark, carefully rationed food, a finite supply of fresh water, and the constant, knowing possibility of those supplies running out before land was sighted. While discipline and foresight were crucial for survival, the basic human needs for sustenance and hydration would inevitably exert a powerful influence on the Wayfinder's subconscious, likely conjuring vivid, tantalizing dreams of phantom feasts and overflowing gourds. When your daily menu consists of dried fish and carefully measured sips of water, your dream self might just decide to throw a 5-course banquet. Imagine the dream tables, or perhaps woven mats, groaning under the weight of all the foods they were missing from home. Roasted pig, cooked to perfection in an imu, steaming piles of taro and breadfruit, succulent fish, fresh from the lagoon, perhaps wrapped into leaves and baked with coconut cream, heaps of sweet, ripe mangoes, bananas, and papayas. In the dream, there are no rations, no limitations. They can eat to their heart's content, savoring every flavor, every texture. The abundance is stark contrast to the careful frugality of their waking life. You might dream of finding a $20 bill in an old coat pocket. They're dreaming of an all-you-can-eat buffet stretching to the horizon. The joy is comparable, I'd wager. Water, even more critical than food in the short term, would also feature prominently in these wish-fulfillment dreams. They might dream of discovering a hidden spring of pure, cool water gushing from a rock on a dream island, or of giant gourds that magically refill themselves. The sensation of drinking deeply, quenching a profound thirst, could be incredibly vivid and satisfying in the dream, even if they woke up to the familiar reality of their carefully conserved supply. It's a known fact that Polynesian voyagers were masters of water conservation, collecting rainwater on sails and sometimes even rationing sweat, but the underlying anxiety about its scarcity would always be present. These dreams of abundance weren't necessarily just about physical hunger or thirst. They could also symbolize a deeper longing for security, for comfort, for a return to a state where basic needs were easily met. The feast could represent not just food, but community celebration and the generosity of the land. Historians still argue about the exact carrying capacity of voyaging canoes for food and water versus the length of the longest voyages undertaken. Some estimates suggest journeys lasting months, pushing the limits of human endurance and resource management. This constant pressure would undoubtedly fuel such dreams. Sometimes, these dreams might have a slightly anxious edge. Perhaps the dreamer arrives at the phantom feast, but just as they are about to eat, the food vanishes, or they are called away, reflecting a subconscious fear that even this dreamed abundance is illusory or unattainable. Or maybe they dream of overeating, a kind of guilt associated with indulging even in a dream when their companions are still on strict rations. The mind is a funny thing, sometimes layering anxieties even onto its most pleasant fantasies. It's a quirky tidbit that in some cultures, sharing food is a profound social and ritual act, Dreams of hoarding food or being unable to share a dream feast might tap into deep-seated cultural values about reciprocity and community. The sources of food and water specific to their island environments would likely be the stars of these dreams. Coconuts, with their rich meat and hydrating water, would be a recurring motif. They might dream of climbing impossibly tall palm trees laden with fruit, or of finding beaches covered in fallen nuts. The specific types of fish they favored, the methods of catching them, the way they were prepared, all these details could be rendered with mouth-watering precision in the dream world. When your waking life involves the repetitive, often arduous, task of fishing from a canoe in the open ocean, dreaming of a calm lagoon teeming with easily caught parrotfish must have been a delightful escape. These dreams of phantom feasts and endless water were more than just a product of deprivation. They were an expression of hope, a visualization of the goal, reaching a new land where such abundance could once again be a reality. They were a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, finding ways to experience pleasure and satisfaction even in the most challenging circumstances, if only in the fleeting theater of the mind. The body might be hungry, the throat dry, but in dreams, for a little while at least, the wayfinder could be a king at a never-ending banquet. Beyond the memories of home and the anxieties of the journey, a powerful driving force for any wayfinder was the anticipation of what lay ahead, the hope of sighting new land, the dream of discovering untouched islands, and the vision of establishing a future for their people. These horizons of hope, shimmering just beyond the curve of the earth, would surely be a recurring and potent theme in their dreamscapes, fueling their resolve and painting their subconscious with images of possibility and promise. If you're sailing into the literal unknown, your imagination is bound to get a bit creative about what you might find. Imagine the dreams after what feels like an eternity of endless blue. A smudge appears on the dream horizon. As the dream canoe sails closer, this smudge resolves into a lush green island, perhaps wreathed in mist, its beaches pristine and untouched. The details of this dream island could be incredibly vivid: the types of trees, the color of the volcanic rock, the presence of freshwater sources like waterfalls or rivers. It might be an idealized version of the islands they knew, or something entirely new and fantastical, a paradise conjured by hope and longing. This initial dream sighting would be filled with a profound sense of relief, excitement, and vindication. You know that feeling when you finally find your keys after searching for an hour. Amplify that by about 1,000,000, and you're probably close to the dream joy of spotting land. The characteristics of these dreamed of new islands could reflect the specific needs and desires of the voyagers. If they were seeking fertile land for cultivation, their dream islands might be covered in rich, dark soil with gentle slopes perfect for taro patches. If they were searching for abundant fishing grounds, the dream island's lagoons might be teeming with colorful fish, its reefs vibrant and healthy. It's a known fact that Polynesian settlers were incredibly astute at assessing the resources of new islands, quickly identifying edible plants, sources of fresh water, and suitable locations for settlements. Their dreams might be a kind of subconscious rehearsal for this assessment process, their minds sifting through possibilities. They might also dream of the act of landing, of setting foot on new soil for the first time. The feel of solid ground beneath their feet after weeks or months of the canoe's motion would be a powerful sensation. Even in a dream, they might dream of exploring this new territory, discovering its secrets, and perhaps encountering its unique flora and fauna, some familiar, some wonderfully strange. Historians still argue about whether early Polynesian explorers had specific search patterns or if their discoveries were more opportunistic. Regardless, the dream of a successful landfall was a powerful motivator. These dreams wouldn't just be about the physical land, but also about the future society they hoped to build. They might dream of laying out a new village, planting the first crops brought from their homeland, and seeing their families and communities thrive in this new environment. These would be dreams of legacy, of continuity, of successfully transplanting their culture to a new branch. It's a quirky tidbit that voyagers often carried culturally significant plants and animals with them like taro, breadfruit, yams, pigs, dogs, and chickens in their canoes, ensuring they could establish their familiar way of life in new lands. Dreaming of these precious cargoes flourishing in a new home would be deeply satisfying. Of course, not all dreams of new lands would be entirely idyllic. The unknown also carries an element of apprehension. They might dream of islands that are barren and inhospitable, or perhaps already inhabited by unfriendly people or dangerous, unknown creatures. These dreams would reflect the inherent risks of exploration, the understanding that not every discovery would be a paradise. This acknowledges the courage it took, not just to sail, but to face whatever they might find at the end of their journey. It's like opening a mystery gift. It could be amazing, or it could be a singing fish. You just don't know. The dream of sighting land was more than just a geographical hope. It was a symbol of achieving a monumental goal, of overcoming incredible odds. It represented the triumph of their knowledge, skill, and endurance. These dreams would serve as a constant internal beacon, pulling them forward through periods of doubt or hardship. The horizon in their dreams was not an endpoint, but a gateway to new beginnings, a canvas upon which they painted their aspirations for generations to come. The silhouette of a new island, whether real or imagined in sleep, was the ultimate symbol of renewal and the enduring human quest for a better future. While grand visions of new islands and ancestral visitations undoubtedly played a significant role in the dream, life of a Polynesian wayfinder, the more mundane, everyday tasks and routines of life aboard the Wa would also subtly weave their patterns into the fabric of their sleeping consciousness. The human mind has a remarkable way of processing and replaying the day's activities, even the repetitive ones, and for these seafarers, their daily toil was a constant, demanding reality that wouldn't simply switch off when they closed their eyes. You might dream about filing those TPS reports, even if you'd rather not. They might dream about lashing a loose spar for the third time. Consider the endless, meticulous observation required. Day after day, scanning the horizon for land, watching the flight paths of birds, noting the color and temperature of the water, studying the subtle shifts in wave patterns and cloud formations. These actions, repeated countless times, would become deeply ingrained. In dreams, these observational habits might continue, but perhaps with a surreal twist. They might dream of birds speaking to them, revealing the location of land, or of wave patterns forming intricate, readable messages. The clouds might take on the shapes of known islands or mythical creatures, their forms shifting and guiding the dream, canoe. It's like your brain is still trying to solve that tricky spreadsheet formula in your sleep. But for them, the spreadsheet is the entire Pacific Ocean. The physical tasks of sailing and maintaining the canoe would also echo in their dreams. The pull of ropes as they adjusted the sail, the rhythm of paddling if the winds died down, the constant bailing of water from the holes, the repair of lashings or parts of the structure. These repetitive motions could translate into dream actions. They might find themselves endlessly trimming a dream, sail that never quite sets right, or paddling through an ocean made of treacle, each stroke requiring immense effort. Or perhaps the dream would offer a sense of effortless mastery, the canoe responding perfectly to their slightest touch, a satisfying replay of their hard-won skills. It's a known fact that the successful operation of a large voyaging canoe required constant teamwork and a high degree of specialized skill from all crew members. The rationing and preparation of food, however meager, was another daily reality. The careful division of dried fish or preserved breadfruit, the cautious doling out of fresh water, these acts of careful stewardship could reappear in dreams. Perhaps they dream of an endless supply of food that still needed to be meticulously divided, or of trying to catch fish in a dream ocean that was stubbornly empty, reflecting anxieties about sustenance. Historians still argue about the exact diet of voyagers, which varied based on origin, destination, and season, but it was undoubtedly monotonous and often sparse on the longest legs of journeys. This would make any dream about food, even the preparation of it, potentially significant. Navigational calculations, even the non-instrumental kind, involved intense mental effort. Remembering star paths, swell directions, estimated distances, this cognitive load would surely spill over into their dreams. They might dream of complex, shifting star maps they were struggling to decipher, or of debating navigational strategies with dream versions of their fellow crew members. A quirky tidbit: some navigators were said to teach their apprentices by having them lie down in the hull of the canoe to feel the different wave patterns. Internalizing this knowledge kinesthetically, imagine dreaming you're a human spirit level, trying to discern the pitch and roll of the universe. Even the less glamorous aspects of life at sea: hygiene, dealing with waste, enduring cramped conditions, and the inevitable personality clashes on a long voyage with the same small group of people, could surface in dream narratives. Perhaps a dream would feature an absurdly clean canoe, or a comical argument over a misplaced fishhook, the subconscious mind working through minor irritations or social dynamics in its own peculiar way. You know how you sometimes run an awkward conversation in your head? Their brains might be doing that, but with the added frisson of being stuck on a small boat with the other person for another month. These dreams, born from the daily grind, might not have been as epic as visions of Minor or prophecies from ancestors, but they were an essential part of how the Wayfinder's mind processed their experiences, consolidated their learning, and coped with the sustained effort of their voyage. The trace of daily toil in their dreams was a testament to their dedication and the all-encompassing nature of their task. It showed that every aspect of their journey, from the grandest celestial observation to the humblest repair, was worthy of the mind's nocturnal attention. Given the profound significance of dreams featuring ancestors, gods, new lands, or potential dangers, it's highly probable that ancient Polynesian cultures possessed established traditions for interpreting these nocturnal visions. While we lack dream journals penned by the Wayfinders themselves, the rich tapestry of their oral traditions, combined with later ethnographic studies of their descendants, strongly suggests that dreams were not dismissed as mere random neural firings, but were often considered meaningful messages from the spiritual realm, omens, or reflections of truths not immediately apparent to the waking mind. The question of precisely how these interpretations were made, and whether specific, codified dream interpretation practices existed universally across all island groups, remains a fascinating area of study. It's likely that the interpretation of a Wayfinder's dream wasn't solely a private affair, especially if the dream seems significant for the voyage or the community. A respected navigator, an elder, or a kahuna's, a priest or expert in Hawaiian tradition, with parallels in other Polynesian societies, might be consulted to unravel the meaning of a particularly vivid or troubling dream. The process might involve discussing the dream's content in detail, considering the current circumstances of the voyage, and drawing upon a shared cultural understanding of symbols and omens. Historians still argue whether dream interpretation was a specialized skill held by a few, or a more generally understood practice within the community, perhaps with varying levels of expertise. Certain dream symbols would likely have carried widely understood connotations. For example, dreaming of specific animals could be highly significant. If an animal was known to be an aumakua, or a family totem, its appearance in a dream would immediately link it to ancestral guidance or warning. Dreaming of a shark, if the shark was a revered ancestor, might be positive. If encountered in a menacing context without that ancestral connection, it could signify danger. The behavior of the animal in the dream would be crucial. Was it helpful, aggressive, elusive? A quirky tidbit: in some Pacific cultures, even insects or specific birds appearing in dreams could have detailed symbolic meanings tied to local folklore or specific deities. Imagine trying to remember if dreaming of a particular type of beetle means good fishing, or that your mother-in-law is thinking of you. The symbolism of natural phenomena would also be key. Dreaming of a clear, calm sea might be interpreted as a sign of smooth sailing ahead, while a stormy, dark ocean could portend difficulties. Stars appearing bright and in their correct positions would be auspicious. Stars falling or obscured could be a warning. The sighting of land in a dream, as we've discussed, would be a powerful symbol of hope and success, though its specific features, barren or fertile, welcoming or hostile, would nuance the interpretation. It's a known fact that Polynesian navigators were expert readers of environmental signs. It follows that they would apply a similar analytical, yet culturally informed, approach to the signs presented in their dreams. The context of the voyage itself would heavily influence interpretation. A dream that might be dismissed as insignificant on land could take on urgent meaning when adrift at sea, hundreds of miles from the nearest shore. If supplies were running low, a dream of feasting might be seen as a hopeful sign that land and sustenance were near, or perhaps a psychological coping mechanism. If the crew was facing uncertainty about their course, a dream featuring clear directional guidance from an ancestor would be given immense weight. You might dream you forgot to the bins out, and it's just an annoyance. If a wayfinder dreamt they forgot to secure the canoe properly before a storm, it would be analyzed with far greater gravity. While there might not have been a Polynesian equivalent of a Freudian dream dictionary, the shared cultural narratives, the myths, legends, and histories would provide a rich framework for understanding dream imagery. A figure resembling Menowu appearing in a dream would instantly evoke all the stories associated with him, allowing the dreamer and interpreters to draw upon a common pool of meaning. The actions of the dream Menowu would then be interpreted within that heroic, tricksterish, or benevolent context. Ultimately, the interpretation of night visions would likely have been a blend of traditional wisdom, intuitive insight, and practical consideration of the current situation. It was a way of making sense of the subconscious, of seeking guidance from all available sources, internal and external, spiritual and practical, in the high-stakes endeavor of oceanic exploration. These dream interpretations, whether formally conducted or informally discussed, reinforced the idea that the sleeping mind was a vital participant in the voyage, a conduit for knowledge and foresight that complemented the navigator's waking skills. Given the communal nature of life aboard a voyaging canoe and the potential significance attributed to dreams, it's quite plausible that wayfinders and their crew didn't always keep their nocturnal narratives to themselves. The sharing of particularly vivid, troubling, or inspiring dreams could have been a common practice, transforming individual subconscious experiences into a form of communal knowledge, a shared pool of portents, anxieties, and hopes that might subtly influence the morale decisions or even the developing lore of the voyage. You might tell your colleague about that weird dream where everyone in the office was a badger. Just for a laugh, they might share a dream that influences whether they turn port or starboard. Imagine the scene: dawn breaking over the Pacific, the crew stirring, the navigator perhaps looking more thoughtful than usual. He or she, as female navigators, also existed, though perhaps less frequently documented in early Western accounts, might quietly recount a dream to a trusted senior crew member or to the assembled group during a calm moment. The telling itself would be an art, choosing which details to emphasize, conveying the emotional tenor of the dream. The listeners, in turn, would absorb the story, their own experiences and cultural understanding shaping their reception of it. It's a known fact that oratory and storytelling were highly valued skills in Polynesian societies, essential for transmitting knowledge, history, and cultural values. Sharing a dream would tap into this tradition. If a dream was deemed significant, particularly one experienced by the lead navigator or an elder, it could become a topic of discussion, its potential meanings debated, its warnings considered. This didn't necessarily mean that every decision was dictated by a dream, but a powerful dream could certainly add weight to a particular course of action, or prompt increased vigilance, or even lead to a ritual observance to ensure good fortune or appease spirits. Historians still argue about the exact command structures on voyaging canoes, but it was likely a blend of hierarchical authority, the navigator's expertise, and consultative decision-making, especially on very long and perilous journeys. Shared dreams could feed into this consultative process. Consider a dream that offered a specific, if cryptic, piece of navigational information, perhaps a vision of a particular sequence of swells, followed by the appearance of a certain type of bird, just before land was sighted. If such a dream was shared, it might sharpen the crew's collective observation for those specific signs. If those signs then appeared in waking reality, it would not only validate the dream, but also reinforce the perceived connection between the dream world and the physical world, potentially becoming a piece of navigational lore passed on. Remember when old canoe dreamed of the three long swells and the white tern? That's how we found Whenua Ora. A quirky tidbit, some traditions speak of dream maps or navigational knowledge received in altered states of consciousness, suggesting a deeply respected link between intuitive insights and practical seafaring. The sharing of dreams could also serve important social and psychological functions. If several crew members reported similar anxiety dreams, perhaps of storms or dwindling supplies, it could open a space for acknowledging shared fears and reinforcing mutual support. Conversely, if someone shared a particularly hopeful dream of a lush, welcoming island, it could boost morale during a difficult phase of the voyage. It's a bit like how a team might rally after a motivational speech, but in this case, the speech comes from the subconscious of one of their own. Guys, I dreamt we found an island made entirely of roasted breadfruit and friendly dolphins. We've got this? Okay, maybe not that specific, but you get the idea. Furthermore, these shared sleep stories, especially those connected to successful landfalls or averted disasters, could gradually become incorporated into the oral history of that particular lineage or community. The dream of an ancestor, a vision that led to a crucial discovery or a narrow escape, could become a foundational element of their identity, retold through generations, perhaps embellished and mythologized over time, but retaining its core as a testament to the guidance received from the spiritual or subconscious realm. The story of the voyage would then not just be about the physical journey, but also about these inner, spiritual journeys that accompanied it. So, while the individual dream remained a personal experience, its recounting could transform it into a collective one. The canoe became a floating repository not just of people and supplies, but of shared narratives, waking and sleeping. The possibility that these discussed dreams influenced practical navigation, fostered communal bonds, and contributed to the ever-evolving tapestry of Polynesian oral tradition adds another layer of richness to our understanding of these extraordinary mariners. Their journey was a dialogue, not just with the ocean and stars, but also with the enigmatic landscapes of their own minds. While the Wayfinder's mind roamed through fantastical dreamscapes of new islands, ancestral encounters, and mythical beings, a part of their consciousness likely remained tethered to the physical reality of the canoe and the surrounding ocean. The need for constant vigilance, even during periods of rest, would have shaped the very nature of their sleep, perhaps leading to a state of being an alert sleeper, where profound relaxation coexisted with an underlying readiness to respond to any sudden change or alarm. This delicate balance between the deep need for restorative sleep and the non-negotiable demands of survival in a precarious environment would inevitably impact sleep depth, dream recall, and the overall quality of their rest. You might sleep through a car alarm, but they probably couldn't afford to sleep through the sound of a hole cracking. Imagine the navigator, technically off duty and asleep, yet their senses still subtly attuned to the familiar symphony of the Wa. A slight, unusual shift in the canoe's motion, a change in the wind's pitch as it sings through the rigging, an unfamiliar slap of a wave against the hull, these subtle cues, which might go unnoticed by a landlubber deep in slumber, could potentially penetrate the Wayfinder's sleep, perhaps not fully waking them, but nudging their dream, narrative, or bringing them closer to the surface of consciousness. It's akin to how a new parent might sleep through a thunderstorm, but wake instantly at the faintest whimper from their baby. Their brains are primed for specific, critical stimuli. This state of alert sleep might mean that their sleep cycles were different, perhaps characterized by more frequent awakenings or longer periods in lighter stages of sleep where dream recall is often more vivid. They might not have had the luxury of long, uninterrupted stretches of deep, slow, wave sleep that we often associate with complete rest. It's a known fact that chronic sleep interruption or insufficient deep sleep can impact cognitive function, yet these navigators performed incredible feats of memory and calculation. This suggests either a remarkable adaptation or that their rest, periods, while perhaps fragmented, were still effective in their own way. Historians still argue about how pre-industrial societies, in general, experienced sleep, with some theories proposing a more segmented sleep patterns. First sleep, second sleep, was common before artificial lighting extended the day. The responsibility weighing on the navigator was immense. The lives of everyone on board depended on their skill and judgment. This burden of responsibility wouldn't simply vanish when they lay down to rest. It's quite possible that this underlying pressure contributed to a lighter, more easily disturbed sleep. Their dreams in this state might be more frequently interrupted, or they might wake with a particularly vivid dream fragment still fresh in their mind, perhaps one related to an immediate concern or observation they were mulling over before sleep. A quirky tidbit: some traditional cultures have practices or beliefs around guarding sleep, where individuals train themselves to remain partially aware or easily rusable, especially in situations requiring vigilance. This alert sleeping could also influence the content of their dreams. If a part of the mind is still monitoring the environment, then changes in that environment, a rising wind, the distant sound of breakers, even a subtle shift in temperature, could be directly incorporated into the ongoing dream narrative. A dream of flying might suddenly be buffeted by dream winds if a real squall began to brew. A peaceful dream island might abruptly be shrouded in dream fog if real mist rolled in. This would make their dream world exceptionally dynamic and responsive to their immediate physical surroundings. A constant interplay between the inner and outer seas. The ability to wake quickly and orient oneself immediately would be a crucial survival skill. There would be no time for grogginess or confusion if a sudden storm hit or a dangerous reef was unexpectedly encountered. This necessity for rapid transition from sleep to full alertness might mean that even in their deepest rest, a part of them remained on call. Think of it as the ultimate on-call duty, where your office is the Pacific Ocean and your pager is the sound of impending doom. You'd probably learn to wake up fast. Therefore, the Wayfinder's sleep was likely a complex tapestry woven from threads of deep wariness, profound mental exertion, sensory input from the canoe and ocean, and an unbroken strand of vigilance. Their dreams, experienced within this unique state of alert slumber, were perhaps more permeable, more directly influenced by the immediate environment, and more readily recalled upon waking if they contained information deemed critical by that ever-watchful part of their sleeping mind. It was sleep with one eye open, metaphorically speaking, a testament to their incredible adaptation to life on the edge of the known world. As the Wayfinder drifted in that uniquely alert slumber, their dreams, woven from starlight, ocean swells, ancestral whispers, and the very fabric of their daily toil, were not merely random nocturnal meanderings. They were, in a profound sense, reflections of their ultimate purpose, the enduring legacy they were forging with each league sailed into the unknown. The dreams of finding new land, of establishing a thriving community, of connecting with the spiritual forces that guided them, all pointed towards a future that extended far beyond their individual lives. This legacy in the mist, the hazy but powerful vision of what their voyages would mean for generations to come, was likely a deep, motivating undercurrent in their subconscious narratives. Imagine a dream not just of sighting an island, but of seeing that island generations later, populated by their descendants, their language spoken, their traditions alive and evolving. The dream might show children learning the star compass just as they had, or listening to stories of the great voyage that brought them there, a voyage in which the dreamer was a key figure. This wouldn't be a dream of personal glory in the modern sense, but of communal continuity, of being a vital link in an unbroken chain. It's a known fact that the peopling of the Pacific was one of humanity's greatest migratory achievements, a testament to incredible courage, skill, and a powerful drive to explore and settle. Their dreams would echo this grand narrative. The anxieties that surfaced in nightmares of being lost, of failing, also connect to this sense of legacy. The fear was not just for their own survival, but for the failure of the mission, the breaking of that chain, the inability to provide a future for their people. The weight of this responsibility to carry their culture and their lineage forward across vast oceanic distances was immense, and it would naturally cast long shadows and bright hopes into their dream world. You might worry about your kids getting into a good school. They were worried about finding a whole new habitable world for their entire lineage. The pressure is, shall we say, significant. The dreams of ancestors offering guidance take on an even deeper meaning in this context. The ancestors represented the past, the foundation upon which their present voyage was built. By appearing in dreams, they weren't just offering practical tips, they were reaffirming the connection to that lineage and implicitly sanctioning the quest for a future. The Wayfinder, by successfully navigating and finding new homes, was fulfilling the unspoken mandate of those who came before, ensuring that their sacrifices and wisdom were not in vain. Historians still argue about the precise motivations for every specific voyage, but the general pattern of eastward expansion across the Pacific suggests a deep-seated cultural impetus to explore and settle, a kind of societal mission. Even the dreams of mythical heroes like Moyu could be interpreted through this lens of legacy. Moyu was a transformer, a bringer of benefits to humanity, someone who reshaped the world. By dreaming of Mungong or of emulating his feats, the Wayfinder might be subconsciously aligning their own efforts with this heroic, world-shaping archetype. Their voyage was not just a relocation, it was an act of creation, of bringing new worlds into the sphere of their culture. It's a quirky tidbit that many origin stories in Polynesia are literally about the creation of the islands and the people. The Wayfinders were, in a very real sense, continuing that act of creation. The mist in legacy in the mist is important. The future was not, of course, clearly visible. It was a hope, an aspiration, glimpsed imperfectly, like an island partially obscured by sea fog. Their dreams would reflect this ambiguity. Some dreams might be filled with clear, bright visions of success, while others might be more uncertain, tinged with the unknown challenges that any new settlement would face. But the underlying drive, the belief in the possibility of that legacy, would persist. So, as our ancient Polynesian Wayfinder sleeps aboard their kaulua, rocked by the gentle Pacific swell, their mind is not just replaying the day or idly fantasizing. It is engaged in a profound dialogue with their past, their present, and their potential future. Their dreams are a testament to the human spirit's remarkable ability to envision, to strive, and to create meaning even in the face of overwhelming odds. The echoes of these dreams, these aspirations for continuity and discovery, resonate down through the centuries, a soft, persistent murmur beneath the much louder narratives of conquest and empire that often dominate our history books. They dream not just of islands, but of futures. And so, as you two drift deeper into your own rest, perhaps you can imagine the gentle rocking of that canoe, the scent of salt and damp wood, the vast, starry sky above. Let the quiet courage of these ancient navigators, their hopes and their fears, their profound connection to the natural world, and their dreams of what lay beyond the horizon, be a soothing presence. The ocean is vast and the night is deep. There is nothing more for you to do now but let go and allow the gentle currents of sleep to carry you towards your own peaceful shores. As the last echoes of the Wayfinder's world begin to soften, as the image of the star, dusted ocean, and the resilient canoe fades gently into the quiet corners of your mind, allow your own breath to deepen, to find its own easy, oceanic rhythm. The journey across the vast Pacific of their dreams was fraught with uncertainty, yet guided by an incredible knowledge and an unshakable hope, a hope that whispered of new beginnings, of life continuing, of legacies woven into the very fabric of the sea and sky. Feel the gentle support beneath you, much like the Wayfinder felt the familiar embrace of the Wa, a small, safe haven in a world of immense mystery. There are no more stars to count tonight, no swells to interpret, no distant islands to seek. There is only this moment, this quiet space, this deepening relaxation. Any thoughts that drift by now are like distant clouds on a far horizon, requiring no attention, no effort. Simply observe them, if you wish, and let them pass, dissolving back into the calm expanse of your mind. The gentle humor and the oddly soothing facts of their ancient lives have served their purpose, guiding you away from the demands of your day and into this peaceful interlude. The ocean of sleep is now before you, calm and inviting. Let the subtle sounds around you, the hum of a fan, the distant murmur of the night, become the gentle lapping of waves against a quiet shore. You are safe, you are comfortable, and it is time to rest, to allow your own mind to set sail on its own tranquil voyages into dreams that restore and rejuvenate. Sweet dreams.